You ever look around your desk and realize you've got 5 different hard drives, none of them labeled, and you have no clue which has the footage you need? Yeah, that was me, until I started using these. These UGREEN NAS devices completely changed how I manage my life, not just my work. Every project, every photo, every document, it's all in one place now. And more importantly, I don't have to stress about where things are anymore. It's giving me back time, peace of mind, and yeah, probably extended my lifespan by a few years. So in this video, I wanted to compare these 2 NASs from UGREEN that I have had the opportunity to use over the past year. And hopefully after you watch this video, you can have a better insight on which to choose. Some disclosures before we get started. This video is sponsored by UGREEN. I am a UGREEN partner, so there may be some bias to this video, but UGREEN has been an amazing sponsor to work with over the past year, and they have been great at giving me a lot of creative freedom with these videos. I will be making a few observations about other NASs towards the end of the video, but let's get into these 2 in particular, which is probably the reason you're here. First off, let's start with the smaller NAS. This is the DXP480T, which is an SSD only NAS with 4 M.2 NVMe slots. This bigger NAS is the DXP4800 Plus, which uses standard SATA hard drives, but also includes 2 NVMe slots. We will talk about those a little later. Both NASs run on UGREEN's operating system, and they offer a large suite of features. Now, a lot of these apps, I don't really know what they do. And it's probably because most of the apps on here are just not really that applicable to me, and I never have really bothered to look into what they do because the apps that I use serve exactly what I need these NASs to do. But let me point out the ones that I do use. First is the Sync and Backup app. This is how I automatically back up everything from my personal photos and videos to my professional photos and videos. The cool thing about it too is that if you have 2 UGREEN NASs, like one for a remote editor, or maybe you're trying to share footage with your family somewhere else, you can also sync and back up to that remote NAS. Let's say though that you don't have another NAS, but you use some kind of cloud service like Google Drive. Well, they both let you sync files with Google Drive. So then if you've got data in the cloud and you want it backed up locally or the other way around, it's simple. It's also a great way when upgrading or migrating to a new NAS to use a cloud service like that. Both of these devices also have UGREEN's AI album assistant, which means is that you can organize and search your photo library with smart tagging. You can type in dog or cat and it pulls up matching images. I've covered this in a few of my past videos on UGREEN NASs. It can recognize people, locations, animals, you name it. Now let me talk about some of the other things that I love about having a NAS. And that is both of these NASs support the mobile app. When I used to transfer files, I used to have to upload it to Google Drive, then download it from Google Drive to my phone. Now I just access the NAS from my phone and download what I need. I use an Android and an Apple laptop. Call me crazy, I like Android phones and Apple laptops. Get over it. Let's say though that you need to access your NAS remotely from the browser of a computer. This could come in clutch if you do photo and video work and you need to access some kind of file or something like that when you're not at home on the go. It's easy to do it directly from the browser. Another thing is you can even edit photos and videos over Wi-Fi. That's not a gimmick. I actually do it all the time because, believe it or not, I do sometimes get a little bored in my unfinished mom's basement. It's not my mom's basement, but it's the joke that I always say. Now let's talk more about the main differences between these 2 NASs, because although they do a lot of the same things, they are kind of for different audiences. Specs wise, they have the same amount of flash memory, RAM, expandable RAM, and RAID options, which those are like the storage options. But where the differences come in is with the CPUs and the ports on the chassis. This one, the DXP480T, has a more powerful CPU. It supports 8K over HDMI, has 2 Thunderbolt ports that support 40 gigabits per second, a USB-A port that supports 10 gigabits per second, and lastly, one 10 gigabit Ethernet port. There's also a headphone jack here that I forgot to put in my script. Now this one, the DXP4800 Plus, has a less powerful CPU. It supports only 4K over HDMI, but it does have a SD card slot on the front, one USB-C and one USB-A port that support 10 gigabits per second, a USB-A port that supports 5 gigabits per second, and 2 USB-A ports that support 480 megabits per second. And there's also an extra Ethernet port on this NAS that supports 2.5 gigabit. The other does 10 gigabits like this one. Now, since I'm here, this is the classic, I guess you could say, NAS that uses HDD hard drives like this one. It has 4 SATA bays and supports up to 112 terabytes of storage. That's a lot of data. The main thing you need to know is that HDDs are probably going to be better for like archival type storage or movies, music, photos, stuff that doesn't really require a higher read and write speed. And that's pretty much what I use this one for, is I store old project files, family photos, important documents, basically everything I want to keep safe and accessible, but don't need to touch every day. Again, keep in mind the type of hard drives these are using. They are louder, a bit slower, but they're also cheaper per terabyte. So if you're trying to build out tons of capacity on a budget, this might be the more economical option. This is where this NAS also becomes slightly more versatile because it has those 2 M.2 NVMe slots that will support 8 terabyte drives, so 16 terabytes of storage. You could not only use those for more faster and reliable storage, like to edit photos or videos off of, but you could also use them as a cache. This will basically make the read and write speeds a bit faster when you're transferring or using certain files on the HDDs. Me saying that, you may be like, oh, well, that's all I need is something like that. I don't need a massive thing like this to store crazy amounts of data. Well, that's where the DXP480T comes in. This NAS is a SSD only, no spinning disks, just 4 NVMe M.2 slots that support 8 terabyte each, so 32 terabytes of storage. That is what I use this NAS for, is active projects I'm editing and working on because I want the fastest, most reliable speeds while I'm doing that. Also, since SSDs don't have any moving parts, they're just less prone to failure, so I feel a bit safer editing off of this. This is actually why I have a spare one of these drives, is because if one of these drives fail in here, I can easily swap it out real quick, plop it back in there, and I don't lose any data, at least hopefully. So you can kind of see how I use both of these in my workflow. Fast and reliable for editing here, then backup and sync for archival and storage here. The kind of last factor to consider though is price. This little guy is actually more expensive than this bigger guy over here. It kind of makes sense since you're paying for better hardware and faster speeds, whereas with this guy, there's some less powerful hardware and slower ports. But this guy may actually turn out to be more versatile for what you need, especially if you only plan on buying one NAS. And maybe you're thinking, well, I don't even need any kind of fast NVMe drives, I just need storage and archival. UGREEN also offers a few lower tier options, which I'll have a link to. My mother-in-law, my wife's family, actually bought the lower tier one as well for that exact reason. They wanted some archival stuff for just family photos and videos that they can access. Now, lastly, I did a little research in comparison to some other brand NASs out there that were comparable. The general consensus that I found is that you can probably find similar NASs out there that will serve a similar purpose for the same price. However, it did seem like UGREEN's NASs tend to offer better hardware and support for the same price. What I mean is a more powerful CPU, more RAM, higher speed ports, even extras like the SD card slot. But probably more importantly is the support of third-party drives. This is a big one. Some brands force you to use their specific hard drives or a specific brand of hard drives, which I feel like kind of defeats the purpose. But UGREEN is totally open and they are regularly updating their compatibility list based on user feedback. Obviously, do your own research though. So essentially, this is probably a good one for maybe like a professional photographer or videographer that wants some kind of main hub to edit all of their photos and videos off of. And then this one, a professional videographer, editor, photographer could totally use this one and also use it for family stuff, but this one might be better for more like personal use, if that makes sense. So that's all I've got. I've got affiliate links for you in the description below. Those do help support the channel, and I provided a link to UGREEN's compatibility list of drives if you want to see what drives are supported. You can always support me though just by hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified. Future uploads. Till the next video though, happy filming, storing, I don't know, one of those.